West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast. West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I'm one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, Mashal St. Patrick Hewitt, and back live, direct, in the flesh, after 80 days traveling around the world. It is, of course, Father Santokie. Santokie, how you doing?
Yeah, Mash, after the ODI performance in England, when we took those licks, I said, you know what? I need to book a plane ticket out of here and clear my mind. But I'm back, Mash. Great to be back on the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. What are we now, Mash? 17th? Are we 17th best cricket podcast in the Caribbean? I'm hearing man are claiming 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I think we're about 17th at the moment. But it's great. It's great to be back. And, here, Mash, we're here to ask the big question. We're 6 days away from it. Start of the Australia tour of West Indies Test Series. It's been 10 years since Australia have toured the Caribbean for Test. The last time they toured, I think Dennis Random was the captain, which shows you how long ago that was. And we're here to ask the question, can West Indies do the unthinkable? We beat them at the Gabba. Can we get a series win against Australia at home? We're going to look at that. First things first, Mash, your reaction. Let's get your reaction straight away to that question. Can West Indies beat the Aussies?
No.
Hit the outro.
No. Now, obviously, some people are going to say in the comments, you said that before the away series in Australia. You gave us no chance then. You and Santokie said we were going to lose, and look what we managed to do at the Gabba. I look back at the Gabba and say that was a once-in-a-lifetime performance that any sports team can pull. Not too dissimilar to... I can't remember the year, Santokie, but do you remember the year I think Wigan got relegated from the Premier League? They beat Manchester City in the FA Cup final, right? Yeah. Did that mean all of a sudden that Wigan were a good football team? We ain't seen Wigan I don't think we've seen Wigan in the Premier League since that relegation, right? So every sports team can pull off a shock. That's the whole point of why people love sports. A shock is possible. So if you'd ask me, do you think West Indies can pull off a shock victory in one of the test matches? Yes, because anything's possible. But if you're asking me outright, can West Indies beat Australia in a 3-match test series? Impossible. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And I don't think that is a healthy metric for any West Indian fan to set this side to do, because we have to remember, Santokie, as much as we started 2024 with the win at the Gabba, and drawing the series with Australia, we ended 2024 with a draw at home against Bangladesh, right? Yeah. Now, again, people might say, but Mash, in 2025, it was the miracle in Multan, and we won a test to draw the series against Pakistan. So I'm not saying that this side, granted it's a new look side with Sammy, isn't capable of doing something, but I'm not setting them a goal of winning a series against Australia, because I think that's unrealistic. What about you?
Yeah, I think that's completely fair assessment. I think the reason it's called Test cricket, right, is because it's a test of your skills. I think in a one-day series or T20 series, one performance. Let's give an example. Let's say Evan Lewis hits 90 or 40 balls in the T20 match. That's most likely 90% of the time that's just going to win the whole match, because it's something he's done in a short burst of time, and you have to do it once, and it's taken away the game from the opposition. Test cricket, to do it twice, it costs 2 different innings, and then the bowlers as well, 2 different innings, and then a series across 3 different tests. 99% of the time, the team with the higher quality kind of reveals itself throughout that course of the series. So like you said, West Indies, they've shown capabilities in the past, Gabba, Multan, to get shock victories when the team has managed to all come together for one test. But over a series, Mash, it's verging on impossible. Australia, we know on paper, as much as they've lost the World Test Championship to South Africa, Hazelwood, Cummins, Stark, Nathan Lyon is a generational bowling attack they've got, right? Despite the weaknesses in their batting. And if anything, I know we've had a lot of people message us saying, Australia, they've got an uncertain batting lineup at the moment. They're coming off a loss against South Africa. For me, coming off the loss against South Africa, and especially in terms of the Aussie mentality, to give South Africa their first ever ICC title, that's going to sting them, right? And the only way you can come back from a sting is by coming back hard in the next series you play. And unfortunately for West Indian fans, they're coming to the Caribbean angry, vexed. So for me, Mash, I think it's very, very unlikely. almost impossible, as you said, that we'll get a series win. The best we can hope for is a test win, ideally in either the first or second test, so the series is at least competitive heading in to that final test. But I guess the second point, Mash, is, and this goes into a wider point about the squad and who's going to play. Do you think the selections of, Brandon King, Kevlon Anderson for their maiden test call-up, Shea Hope returning to the side, do you think that's going to make any sort of substantial difference to the output of the test side for West Indies?
So I think that's a good question. First things first, and I have to give credit to Neeks for this, because Neeks made this point in a Discord a few days ago. Neeks' argument is this, and if I've got this wrong, Neeks, please add a bit more detail and depth in the comments below. But the crux of Neeks' argument was, when Sammy got the job, he made it clear to everyone in the Caribbean that he does not differentiate between white ball cricketers and red ball cricketers. As far as he was concerned, a West Indian cricketer is a West Indian cricketer, irrespective of format. And he kind of foreshadowed to us, the public, what he was going to do. And ultimately, Santokie, as much as we said, oh, Ruston Chase was his money in the bank guy, actually, Brandon King and Shea Hope were as well, because he alluded to, when he got the job, I'm going to call some white ball guys up. So to me, we can't then turn around and be shocked when some quote unquote white ball guys are suddenly in the team, because he said he was going to pick the best West Indian cricketers. And in Darren Sammy's mind, that means giving Brandon King a test debut. That means recalling Shea Hope, who is our best ODI batter. That means bringing Ruston Chase back into the fold. It means sticking with Carty, who's got 3 centuries in quick succession in ODI cricket, right? So on one hand, people can criticize and critique, but on the other hand, I think you have to say, Santokie, well, he's only done what he said he was going to do. So how can we turn around and suddenly be shocked by what he's done? He actually told everyone, I'm gonna do this. So he now needs to succeed or fail on his own metrics.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because like you said, I think Ruston Chase was a surprise as captain, but I think when he did say he was excited about a certain player committing to the side, he either has to be talking about Hope or King. I'm thinking it's probably King yet, right? Because King's not someone who's played Test cricket, and it's a statement to get King, who's been boxed in as a white ball player, to commit to Test cricket and become available. So that's it. But like you said, Mash, it's also a gamble on Sammy's part, because he's dropped, Afanase, Hodge, 2 sort of regulars in the Test side over the last year and a half. Obviously, they weren't informed, but Afanase was the highest run scorer, I think, in the A-team tour against South Africa. He's someone who has been being groomed, as you know, as a central role in that West Indies Test side. So he's made some big calls, and it's up to. I guess this match is where he's got the ingredients together. This is where his coaching ability is going to come in. Can he galvanize this team? When all the odds are stacked against them, can he get this team to gel together with these new faces and put up a performance and compete with the Australians? I guess let's break it down rather than talking about from a general standpoint. Let's break it down firstly. In terms of the opening, we know obviously Craig Brathwaite's going to open on one end. It'll be interesting to see now he's relinquished the captaincy, whether that gives him some sort of freedom in terms of how he plays and he can regain some form. He wasn't in the best scoring form in the last match he played against South Africa A. I think he hit 35 and a duck. But we know Craig Brathwaite, he's someone who tends to stand up when it matters in the big moments. So we're hoping he can come good. Where do you stand on his opening partner? Do West Indies go with a Mikhail Louis, who they persisted with for the last year or so? Average, I forgot what he's even averaging now. Is it under 20 or something along those lines in Test
20,
cricket?
I think it's 21. Maybe it might even be 20 or 19, I can't.
Yeah.
But it's low. It's low, whatever it is.
It's low, right? Or do they go with the returning John Campbell? He's been out the game for nearly 3 years after a ban. He's come back in. He was thrown into the A-team side. He played both of the games. Mikhail Louis only played one. So that kind of gives an indication he might be a preference at the moment. Where do you go, Mash? Do you take that gamble and put John Campbell in? Or do you persist with Mikhail Louis just because he's played with Brathwaite more recently? He's got that rapport with him, so built up that rapport. And if you're looking at their A-team scores, there wasn't really much different. So to start with, what's your thing on who should partner Craig Brathwaite?
If I'm not mistaken, I think Campbell hit a 59 or something. Yeah. In that final innings against South Africa A, and that might just swing it in his favor. I think I'm going to look at the bigger picture.
Yeah,
they called John Campbell to come to England when who was it that couldn't come? Was it Shafane Rutherford or whoever it was? They called Campbell to England to be the backup or a replacement for the absence, right? That kind of tells me that Campbell's higher in the pecking order. Not because I'm saying it was between Campbell or Mikhail Louis to be called up to the ODI squad, but it kind of gives me an indication of how they view Campbell.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to go with experience. I think they're going to try and give Campbell another go again and let Mikhail just watch from the sidelines for a bit. That's my gut instinct. And I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. Some people will say, they should continue to invest in Mikhail Louis, so on and so forth. Now, arguably, Santokie, what they should be doing is they should be looking in the nets and in this kind of practice camp ahead of the first test and just pick who looks better. But if you were to ask me what my gut feeling says, it's Campbell and Brathwaite initially.
Yeah, for me, it doesn't really. Either Louis or Campbell doesn't really make a massive difference to me. We've seen what Campbell, kind of how he gave his wicket away when he did play Test cricket, his inconsistency. Mikhail Louis, obviously, as you said, averaging either early 20s or below 20. At the moment, very low average. I think either way, if you're Brandon King and you're coming in at number 3, let's say, you'll be thinking, hold on, I'm going to be out facing the new ball real quick, because either way, I think if you play Louis or Campbell, we're going to lose a quick early wicket, whether that be Louis or Campbell. So because we've seen them play before, right, and we kind of know what their limitations are. Campbell in the past has been able to produce once in 5 or 6 innings, produce a high score, but generally he's lacked that consistency. So for me, a lot is going to depend on that middle order, what West Indies can put together in that middle order against the Australians. Speaking of him, we mentioned him before, Brandon King. Do you just see Brandon King slotting in at a number 3, or what's your kind of take on Brandon King? I mean, firstly, is it a given Brandon King makes the 11 from your point?
I think so. I think if you've gone to the rigmarole, knowing that people will cuss, because I think Brandon only averaged 30 in this year's 4-day championship, right? And there's people on Brandon's back saying that he doesn't convert enough when it comes to ODIs, and some people don't necessarily want him opening with Evan Lewis in the T20s, whatever, right? So Brandon comes in to the test squad under a bit of pressure. But at the same time, and I'm kind of being at pains to point this out to people, it feels like everybody else in the Caribbean has been given a chance.
Yeah.
King's one of the few established players with international experience who's yet to be given a chance. So if you've gone to the effort of getting Brandon King to commit to Test cricket and call him up to a Test squad, I think he has to debut. And this is going to piss some people off. Kevlon Anderson has the runs in first-class cricket this season. And I'm sure the Guyanese fans will say he's got to play. But again, did Kevlon really show that then against South Africa? Not necessarily, right? So I can see them. My gut instinct is that they're going Carty and King. In whatever order, I don't know, but my gut instinct says it's Carty 3, King 4, Chase 5.
That's an interesting one. Because Carty's obviously shown the form in white ball cricket. What's his average in Test cricket?
17, something like 17.
Oh, the camera fell off at that one.
But fam, what else are we thinking? The thing is, they're trying their best.
If I'm Amir, you know what? If I'm Amir Jangu, I'm pissed, bro. got dropped from the test side for a 17 average, bro. I know Casey Carty's doing this stuff in white ball cricket, but we're talking. This goes back to your point, right? I guess what Sammy's trying to say is he's not seeing it in terms of formats being different compartments.
Yeah.
It's just you're West Indian player. So Carty's doing well in the white ball cricket. He's adjusted to T20 cricket. Let's see if he can make the adjustment under me for Test cricket. But man, it's a big ask. Carty playing Test cricket, averaging 17. What did he even get in the regional season? I don't even remember what he
averaged like 20. He was down bad in the regional season as well. So do you remember that I asked him? I don't know if you saw the clip. I asked him after the century in Cardiff. I said, "Do you want to play Test cricket?" Yeah. And he was like, well, he basically said, I had a down bad regional season. Of course, I want to play Test cricket, but I understand if other players will get picked instead of me because I didn't back it up in down bad regional. But as you've alluded to, Santokie, I think Sammy's looked at it as you've just scored 3 centuries in quick succession in ODI cricket. I've never seen you more in control of your game than you are right now. And he just banged out a quick 49 of 22 in the 1T20 in Ireland, right? So right now he's in form. Whether you agree with him being there or not, I at least understand the rationale for why he's there.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing you can say, it depends on how much you weight the regional season. In his last regional game, he hit a 55 against the Barbados, coming at number 3. So it's not as if he's been completely out of form in red ball cricket. But the facts are there. When it's been Test cricket, he's someone who's completely struggled. What was his last Test match? It was the Multan one, wasn't it? He played in Multan.
Was it the first one in Multan?
Yeah,
and because he would have been dropped for Django in the second one.
So he got a first ball duck in the first innings at Multan, and then came in. He got 6 off 6 balls. So he faced 7 balls in the Multan Test back in the 2 innings. But it depends on, obviously that was under Kohli, right? So it depends on Sammy and his.
But then listen to this, right? I'm just going to read you his last 12 innings, right? Yeah. So regional, Leeward Islands versus Guyana, he scored 92 and 19 not out. Leeward Islands versus Barbados, he scored 55 and 37. Ireland ODI 6. Ireland ODI 102. Ireland ODI 170. England ODI 22. England ODI 103. England ODI 29. Ireland T20 49 not out. Yeah. I'm not saying it's amazing, but by West Indian metrics, I get why he's there.
Yeah.
What do you think? What are you saying to me? Are you saying Kevlin Anderson over Casey Carty? Or are you saying Kevlin Anderson over one of Carty and King? Sorry, I shouldn't even have made it about Carty.
No. I think King comes in. I think, like you said, you're not going to the hassle of picking King. At his age and sort of his credentials that he's got behind him, I don't think you're picking King to leave him out. Kevlin Anderson would be the gamble, because Kevlin Anderson's someone who's, seems to be diverted more to being a red ball player. Carty, though, the argument that you presented is a good one, counter argument, that if a man's in form, right? If everything he's touching, red ball, he's put together some scores in his last 2 games. 50 over cricket, we've seen him excelled 170 against Ireland, and then T20 cricket as well. So the argument, I guess, and that would be Sammy's defensive. If a man's hitting runs, he's in form, he's got that confidence to take it into Test cricket. It's a gamble, but I think again, as this has been a recurring theme on the pod, it just shows our lack of options. We've either got Casey Carty with a 17 average or Kevlin Anderson in for debut coming in at number 3, and they're going to have to face Stark, Hazelwood, Cummins with the new.
And whoever it is facing one of them lot within about 3 overs, maybe. Okay, now that's harsh. They're facing one of them lot within 15 overs. They're coming out to bat. Right?
That's not even because I know people will comment and be like, "Oh, you Englishman ain't even supporting West Indies. You're saying we're going to be out in 15 overs." I think any team in the world, you come out to bat against that batting lineup, the chances are within the first 10 overs, one of your openers,
someone's losing. I mean, it happened to South Africa, so why would it not happen to us?
Exactly. So, obviously, this isn't our prediction show, but we're sort of just rationalizing what kind of lineup West Indies would have against Australia and what damage they could do. So with what we're saying Campbell, Brathwaite as openers.
Yeah.
Casey Carty most likely at 3. Brandon King at 4. Chase at 5.
Graves at 6. I think Graves at 6.
Yeah, Graves, sorry. Graves.
So then here's the next talking point.
It's the next talking point. Because Graves has to play as all-rounder, right?
Yeah, Graves has to. I'm assuming Graves plays. It's in Barbados. I'm assuming they'll want the all-rounding seam bowler, right? So that means Graves at 6. 8, 9, 10. Yeah, Graves at 6. Then the question mark for me is this, Santokie. Hope or Imlach? Because I think Hope's playing regardless. So, but the only way I see Hope getting in the squad is if Imlach's out and Hope takes the gloves. Surely you can't drop Imlach though after his performance in Multan, which was universally praised as being the only thing is Sammy could argue, Hope's more likely to put up runs and keep as well. I just sense that Imlach's out, cuz. Now, obviously, I'm with you. Based on how Imlach performed, certainly behind the stumps in Multan, you give him another go, right? But in the same way how De Silva didn't even get picked in the 18, didn't get a test call-up, Afanase has been told to jog on, Hodge has been told to jog on, Django's been told to jog on. I don't think Sammy's out here about feelings and friendship. If he thinks Hope is the better player, I think he's going to pick Hope, irrespective. Like, in essence, what I'm saying, Santokie, is what happened in Multan might have been a lifetime ago. It's 6 months ago. It was 6 months ago. Like, it's a long time since that happened, you know? So I think Sammy's taken the attitude of, that's then. We're talking about now, and we're talking about how I want my test team to play. So I don't think there's any friendship out here. Wouldn't surprise me if Hope's in instead of Imlak.
And I think the seeds, if that is going to happen, the seeds were planted because didn't Hope in the one regional game he played
with the gloves for Barbados and batted at 6 or 7 or something. Yeah. And do you remember you and I discussed it and said there's no way Hope's doing that for Barbados unless he's had a conversation with Sammy?
Yeah,
he wouldn't just. Otherwise, he'd bat 3 or 4.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So we said that would make sense that Sammy's, because obviously at that point Sammy had been announced as the head coach and he was putting plans together. So that wouldn't surprise me if a call was made to Hope, a discussion. Look, play this in regional game. Let's test it out. Maybe you can do something together. So it's a big call match. It'd be very interesting, Wednesday to see when that toss happens and the squads are announced to see if Imlak's in or Hope, because Hope's a headline, right? Hope and King are the headlines for this squad. You're not dropping main event Hope,
Thank you. That's my point. You're surely not calling Shea Hope back to Test cricket after a 4-year absence to say, sit on the bench. I just don't see it. You don't call back a main eventer to sit on the bench so that the opening card act can get the main. Like it just and I know it's harsh on Imlak, but I just don't see how. Why would you go to the bother of bringing Hope back?
Man said Hope's John Cena out here main event, and Tevin Imlak's moving like Spike Dudley, first match.
Right, Tevin Imlak's like Hurricane Helms, cuz. Right, stand back. There's a hurricane coming through.
Right, so Imlak's out as well. This is gonna be a madness, And then Mash, I guess the last part to wrap up the show, when it comes down to the bowling, Warwican has to play, right? He's the vice captain.
Yeah.
And then when you look at the seam attacks, you'd imagine it'd be Seals and Alzari will definitely get in.
Yeah. And then it's Shamar or Anderson Phillip.
And so I think that it wouldn't surprise me if Phillip played, because Shamar Jones has been out of form. The A-team tour, we saw it against South Africa. He looked
Anderson Phillip out-bowled him, didn't he?
Yeah, and Anderson Phillips played county cricket as well. Did well for Trinidad as well. Almost took them to the title along with Jaden Seals. Works well with Jaden Seals. So it wouldn't surprise. I think Seals and Alzari are bankers. They're definitely going to be in there with Warwican. And then the last spot, I could see it go either way, because Shamar Joseph, maybe they might want to persist with him, but I would say Anderson Phillip probably edges him. In terms of making his own test return to the side. But the bowling attack.
And Anderson Phillip against South Africa took 5 for 67. So he outbowled. Put it this way, he outbowled Shamar. So it's gonna be interesting, to be honest. And then obviously he started off poorly for Lancashire, but in his second game he took 3 for 65, 3 for 51, 2 for 94 in his last game for Lancs. Obviously Lancs have had a terrible season. There's an argument to say Anderson Phillip deserves a spot on merit. Like the days of seeing him as you're the backup dancer. Maybe he's like, no, I deserve this on merit now.
I was literally going to say that. And I know he's been seen as sort of the backup reserve coming in when other people are injured. But he's kind of this year he's kind of shown he can be the frontline guy. So I think Anderson Phillip is worth a shout. But again,
what would you do though?
I'd go Phillip. Just because
So you're saying no Shamar Joseph?
No, I wouldn't go Shamar. I think Shamar Joseph needs to work on a few aspects of his game, take some time out. I think for Shamar Joseph, since the Gabba, it's been a roller coaster for him in terms of playing franchise cricket, red ball cricket. He's trying to fit all across all formats. And don't forget, the Gabba came in his first year of professional cricket, right? It's not as if he'd been playing. So I think he still needs to work on his own game. He hasn't had time to do that. I think he's an incredible bowler, but he just needs to step back and work on his game. I think Anderson Phillip, someone who knows his game. He's plied his trade for years now at regional level, county cricket. He's been playing. He's played the odd test here and there. He knows his game inside out. He's slightly older at this point, experienced. So I think Anderson Phillip comes in, does the job. I'd go with Anderson Phillip. Yourself?
Yeah, that's a compelling argument. I wouldn't be mad at it. I don't know what I'd do because I haven't thought about it enough, but I certainly wouldn't. Put it this way, if I found out on the first day of the game that that's what they'd done, I wouldn't be sitting there going, where's Shamar Joseph? Be like, okay, yeah, cool, whatever. last couple of things, Santokie, to touch, then we'll wrap this up. First thing, shout out Shane, a friend of the podcast. Shane sent us a message, I think via Insta, saying, Mash, there's no way this team can take 20 wickets. Where do you stand on that, Santokie?
No, I think to be fair, I think that's probably our strength. I think if Seals, Phillip, Shamar, Alzari, and then Warwick can kind of chip in as the pitch deteriorates.
With Graves and Chase as the backups.
I think that's where our strength lies, the ability to take 20 wickets, right? Especially at the Kensington Oval pitch where, the pace is going to help. So I think that's our strength. My issue is, how do we stop a batting collapse against these bowlers, basically? That's for me where West Indies' downfall is going to be, as always. I think the batting are going to be our main concern. The bowling, I have no real... Obviously, there's concerns because Australia, if you look at Khawaja, Labuschagne, Cameron Green, they have potentials to hit a big score or double century, for instance, if they get in. But I'm more confident of the bowlers taking 20 wickets than us posting anything over 250, basically. So, yeah.
And final one. There's lots of rumours going around social media coming out of the Australia press corps that actually Australia might make some major changes against us. People are cussing, saying Labuschagne's been failing for ages. They're cussing about Khawaja. He's an old man now. They're cussing about Cameron Green. And of course, because there's always the existential crisis that is the Ashes and how it defines everything for Australia and English cricket, we're supposed to be the warm-up act for the Ashes, right? The Ashes starts in November later on this year. Do you see Australia dropping any of those three? Or do you... Because if they are, they're not really giving the next players who come in for the Ashes, if that's what was to happen, much time to get ready. So if you're Australia, if you've got doubts about the Khawajas, the Greens, the Labuschagne, for example, do you drop them for West Indies, or do you say, this is last chance saloon, go beat these down bad men and score runs, otherwise you're not coming to the Ashes? Like, how would you play it?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because especially with Steve Smith being
and
uncertain.
Steve Smith, of course, is injured. Yeah, sorry.
So that could force that. But if you look at the guys coming in reserve, they got Sam Constas, you saw what he did against India as an exciting opener. Josh Inglis hit a century in his last test in Sri Lanka. And they're going to be hungry, right? They're not going to be complacent. They're going to want to seal their spot in the side. So if Australia do make changes, Labuschagne out or Khawaja might be out, for instance, I think it's even more trouble for West Indies, because you're going to have hungry players, younger players, who need to score big runs to make cement their place in the Ashes. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting. But I think either way, Mash, it's going to be a tough ask for West Indies to kind of compete. Like you said, over one test, anyone can hear a baby in the background.
I was going to say, Father Santokie's in the mud right now.
True West Indies fan out here is crying when I've been cussing down their hopes. So, yeah, but I think it's going to be very, very tough. Whoever comes in, if anything, it probably favour West Indies if they stuck with the tried and tested veterans, just to because they're out of form. I think if we see some swaps in, it's gonna be big trouble for West Indies, because those players are going to be hungry to score runs. And we've seen West Indies, when one player gets in, we see heads drop and kind of lose the plot a bit. So that's going to be kind of maintaining that discipline and consistent over 3 tests as well, because can't remember the last time we played Australia in 3 tests. When they toured 10 years ago, it was 2 tests. I think this was meant to be 2 tests, but the Gabba Premium kind of added the extra test. So it's going to be a long dual Mash. So let's go with predictions. What are you saying at the moment? I think I'm going to be realistic, Mash. I think 3-0 Australia. Yourself?
The realistic answer is 3-0. The optimistic heartstrings answer is 2-1 defeat. But fundamentally, Santokie, this is all I want, and this is where I leave this particular episode. I just want us to compete. And that might sound defeatist to some people, but I want us to have left the test series with everyone being able to say, you know what? West Indies put up a much stronger fight than anybody thought they were capable of. The scoreline after that is almost irrelevant if they put up a strong enough fight. But if you're asking me the genuine prediction, 3-0. Yeah,
and I think that's in terms of them putting up a fight and the performance to be proud of, I think that's a good way to end the show. So comment below, what do you think the prediction's what's your prediction for the series? Do you think West Indies can swing an almighty generational upset, or do you think Australia are going to walk over us 3-0? Let us know below. Comment below who would make your 11. As always, like, comment, share, subscribe. Caribbean Cricket Podcast. We're on Instagram, X, TikTok, Blue Sky, Facebook. If you'd like to donate, kindly can do so at patreon.com/CaribCricket. That's been us. as the Australia tour starts on Wednesday, we'll be sure to have more regular content, probably analysing a day's played and hot topics and everything along those lines. So keep following us, and we'll see you very soon.
Peace.
West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast. West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast.